everyone! So this has been a long time coming. This project I started for Grandma Shirley back in December. It was supposed to be a Christmas present.
I'm a fraud. I'm a failure.
But unfortunately, this isn't the only thing I have going on in my life right now. So anyways, I was like, I'm just gonna still do it anyways, and I'll just give it to her. And I was like, well, I didn't want to wait until next Christmas because it's kind of a long time. But then I remembered that her birthday is in April. I have been very fortunate, and I have been emailing back and forth with her over the past few years here and there. I think she has it listed on her YouTube channel, which when I first looked for it, I couldn't find it because for some reason it wasn't listed on my phone. I had to get on my desktop to find it. When we had been emailing back and forth, I was like, I knew that Grandma really liked the north coast of Skyrim because when she played her Shirley and Inigo series, she was always taking them up there. Fox furs so that they could go up and like hike around to the north coast, and she likes the snow and of course the dead trees up there on like the shore. It's my best to put plenty of dead trees in there. You'll see. But yeah, so I did email her and verify. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year, February 2024, I was actually able to meet up with her in person and give her that Skyrim coaster that I made. I've gotten a bit better since then. I actually filmed that meeting. It was my first time meeting her. I was so excited, and I was so happy that she happened to be in the same state as me and she agreed to meet up with me and everything. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. She made a whole video about it and posted it like that night. Like usually she waits till the morning, right? She is the Good Morning Grandkids, but at the time I was searching for a better option for like video editor because let's just not even talk about Adobe. As much as I love Premiere, it's just, oh my gosh, everyone's been upset with them for so long. It took me a while to find something that I could use, and by that time it had been months because I've just been doing other things too. I did manage to post a short on my channel of me giving her the coaster, which was my first video ever. Yeah, that like gave me the courage to actually start. And I was like, I'm gonna get to Grandma and that'll be my first video, and oh well. So yes, anyways, I started this back in December and I've been working on it slowly ever since, and I've been documenting my progress. So I thought I would share everything that I did. Not everything, I wasn't able to film everything. It's just, it's a bit much because there's a lot of little tiny things in this table. Yeah, I don't know, I just got this idea maybe in October or something last year, and I thought, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was like, I'm gonna like take it up a notch this year. So yes, right now it's April 1st, and so I'm supposed to drive down back to Lebanon and meet her tomorrow for the second time. I'm so excited. Okay. But I'm gonna go early so that I can go and set up because Grandma has no idea that I did this. I've been editing the video here and there as I go, so I don't have like a huge amount of work to do at the very end. I was gonna try and finish it tonight, wish me luck. I have like probably over 200 clips of footage that I tried to just catch a lot of the things as I was building them and making them, like sculpting them and gluing them and painting them. I made things a little harder on myself at one point. You'll see if you keep watching. I decided to add something extra. I didn't have this planned originally, but oh my gosh. I just, when I get these ideas, I can't not. I just have to do it, so. Hey guys, voiceover time. So I found this table on Amazon. I've already done one table like this winter end table I did a few months ago. It's just like a snowy scene with a bunch of pine trees, like a ton of pine trees, and a little fox I sculpted and put in there. And it's got like a log cabin and a pond with like a little dock. All right guys, here we go. I got some little shells. I got these little foliage pieces, accessory things. I have two different bases I could use for the snow, and I can't decide which one. What do you guys think? This one is a more like white chunky glitter looking thing, and this one is more of like a smaller like glitter. I can't decide. Got some pearls, some little coins, more little bush thingies. And I got a bunch of these skulls. They're Warhammer skulls, which I've never played. But you know how Grandma likes her skulls. She was just showing us, was it like a giant skull pillow or something that she got back around Halloween? But yeah, so these will probably definitely come in handy. I picked them up from the Guard Tower, which is a local D&D shop. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner, but yeah. And then one of the worst parts, I have these to cut up a whole bunch of little pine trees with. I have a few different sizes and different colors. I got this lighter green one and a few different types. I got, since it's around Christmas season in the craft shops, they have like these, you know, fake fir, I don't know what you call them, but yeah, these are a lot harder to cut up. Since I have to cut a ton of them, I better get to it. And I got big rocks and little rocks. Is it just me, or do you guys feel dumb buying rocks? Like, probably just go outside and get a whole bunch of rocks. And I have done that before, but I mean, whatever. All right, let's take a look at these skulls here. Okay, those are probably gonna be too big. This one, maybe. It looks like it could be like a hag raven skull, potentially. Okay, some sort of, it looks like an alien skull. I don't know if there's anything that looks like this in Skyrim. Interesting, we got some detached jawbones, it looks like. These ones look pretty good. I think I can use those. This guy, he's like, it's like a little kind of slack jaw, can you tell? It's kind of like off to the side. Whoever actually plays Warhammer is probably like making so much fun of me right now. This one looks like his skull got like busted open, see that? I bet Grandma would like that one. Okay, enough about skulls. Moving on. Here we go with cutting up a ton of little trees. Then we gotta like actually like trim them, so. There you go. Just gotta do that about like 200 more times. I already did this for that other table that I showed you at the beginning of the video. I don't even know how many I cut up, probably, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds. It's very painstaking. Alright guys, see what I mean? See how tiny this tree is? Okay. And then look at like one of the skulls. Like, oh my gosh, it's not gonna be to scale, okay? We want Grandma to actually be able to see what's in the table. Right, like with this tree, like the bigger ones, that's a little more accurate. A little. I don't know why, but these are a lot tougher to cut. The way that they're made, they're just very... Oh. I know these look more realistic, but they're a little harder to glue down and like secure in place because they're very bristly, and I like them, but also they're a little sparse. See, they look a little like they could have a few more branches or something in there. But I know they're supposed to be, this isn't exactly how you're supposed to use them, but whatever. All right, so we got a couple of varieties of trees. You can see there's different sizes here. There's that little one, didn't want to stand up for you. Oh, and yeah, these bushes are like as big as the trees. Oh my gosh. Maybe I can use some of these. They look like they're probably just as big too. And so I began to sketch out the map. I have Ustengrav Depths here. I got North Highgate up there. the Imperial camp. And then, yeah, I realized that it was going to be way too small, so I started over. Although, honestly, in the end, I probably even should have made it bigger, but we'll get to that. So I'm just sketching out the map again. And then I started adding the grass. You can get this stuff in like the train, like museum building aisle, and like, well, I got it in Hobby Lobby. Just painting in some blue water here. This will not be the final layer for the water, but yeah, just blocking it out. Sculpting in some snowy mountains. And then scraping them back up so they can get baked in the oven. And then I decided to go with the, you can see there's a little bit of a difference. There's one that's a little bit thinner for the snow, so I decided to go with that one just so that I could have a little more space height-wise because I was going to build things on top of it. Just adding some chunks of snow on the islands. Okay, and here I started sculpting the North High Gate. There's like a dwarven head on top of the gate, and it kind of looked really derpy when I started, almost like a silly looking Robotnik head. Ugh. But I curved his mustache down, and hopefully it doesn't look too terrible. And now that all the mountains have been baked and they are hard, we can glue them all down with some super glue in place. There were a whole bunch of different rock formations, and I just did my best from using my top-down reference of the map that I had. I was actually originally going to do the top westernmost corner of the Skyrim map because I'm pretty sure that's where Grandma Shirley's sentient stump, I'm pretty sure it's up there. But the map was just so foggy when I was trying to look at it from the top down when I was like doing my research that I just had to shift a little bit east. So, but it worked out because Ustengrav is like one of the first quests you get, right? So I was trying to not get too many major landmarks in this one also because she really just likes to adventure. And also that would be a little less work because I had to sculpt a lot of this stuff by hand. So yes, here we go. With the North High Gate, I'm just making a little slot in the snow, adding some super glue, and then I'll just glue them down into place. I ended up doing a few different things for the mountains. I sculpted a lot of them out of clay, but then I used some of these rocks here that I had because I was like, I'm just going to be covering them with snow. And here I am sculpting Ustengrav Depths very carefully. Adding the ridges, adding a little bit of texture to make it look like, you know, like stony rocks. So I managed to get the door in there. And then I decided to not sculpt in the stairs going down in. I decided to just glue them on after this had baked in the oven. Because I have tiny rocks that I can just glue in there. Some of them are flat enough. Then I proceeded to make the tiny little tent/cot thing that is right outside of Ustengrav. I think there may have been two, but I just did one. Don't come for me. I'm listening to Grandma in the background. I must have had her videos playing. And now I have some little stone pillars that I sculpted that are ready to be glued outside of Ustengrav, and some moss that I'm going to sprinkle around on top to make the rocks look a little, you know, mossy and weathered. putting down a little glue first so that the moss will stick. And here I'm building the little fireplace that's outside Ustengrav by the camp. And here I'm being lazy and not using a palette or anything because I just need itty bitty little bit of paint. So I'm just mixing it on my finger and painting in the bottom of Ustengrav here, the stone floor. Adding a little bit of stone detail with a darker shade of gray. And I put the little windows in there too. See the little black vertical lines. I was able to painstakingly add the little flat stone steps going down into Ustengrav. I started adding little stones in the mountain sculptures that I was making just to add more texture later on. And I think it worked out pretty well once I added the snow on top. This is a little embarrassing. You can see how the wood is a little discolored. It's a little darker because I had this clay formation just sitting there for like a couple weeks when I didn't get to work on it right away. The moisture in the clay, because I hadn't baked it yet, it just kind of seeped into the wood. Oops. And unfortunately, guys, much to my great dismay, I remember looking top down on the map. It looked suspiciously geometrical. So I had to look it up, and sure enough, it was a very large dwarven ruin that I just could not ignore. I can't even pronounce it. It starts with an M though. Ah, must be a new day. I got my morning matcha. Okay, I'm pretty sure I got all the mountains and rock formations finished. I have the little rock formations up here on the island, which I'm pretty sure is connected to North Highgate because they look a little dwarven up there. It looks like a little tiny altar too or something. And now came the very painstaking task of trying to lay down the snow correctly and making it all fit together without looking terrible and spacey, and oh my gosh, I was just trying to press the snow down as like a snow cover and try and cut out holes in the right spots for the rocks to poke through. It was crazy. And then I finally got to start adding some snow. I just used white acrylic paint here. I really do like how that texture turned out by adding those little tiny rocks in the clay mountains. I made a couple tiny barrels to put in Ustengrav, but they were just too big. It would have looked silly. There's supposed to be a shovel in there too, but I was just like, there's just no way. Use the hair. I poked a couple holes in the snow here so that I would remember that there was an abandoned log cabin and also the Imperial camp. Just adding a few more pieces of snow here, and now I am gluing down the dragon burial site, the dragon resurrection site. I'm pretty sure that's what that was. So I have a couple more rock formations. So I have a couple more vertical rock formations up around there. And now I'm just adding a little bit of like brown acrylic paint. I'm building the little cabin. I used cereal box cardboard for all the wood. I stacked a few of those stones to make the chimney, and I used a little bit of this like thin wire for the wood. When you tilt your table up and all the excess sand runs down, you try and salvage it, or do you just throw it away?
Sometimes, for the greater good, sacrifices must be made.
So here we have a few 3D printed sculptures. I do have a 3D printer, but I had to enlist someone's help because I am still struggling to figure out how to use it on my own. Huge shout out to Potato Clips on Thingiverse. I'm pretty sure that's who made these all, and they were all available for free, this bundle of Skyrim 3D models, and I was just so grateful. And I had him print me a little Viking ship because there's a shipwreck up there on the north coast. I did have to start building the inside myself, because it was just the exoskeleton, but that's fine. I got it done. There's some more cereal cardboard box stuff, I think. That wire I was mentioning, I ended up using this stuff a lot in this project. I think it's usually used for like jewelry, but yeah, it was really easy to use, easy to cut, and I used it for a whole bunch of different stuff. I used it a bunch on the ship. See, I have it here on the bottom, and I used it for like the ribbing and the ceiling up top there. Checking my map. Yep, that's where the shipwreck is. I painted it all brown, added a little bit of white highlight, and glued it down. Got some more tea, must be another new day. Just poking some holes in the snow here for the deer's feet. The little hooves go in there. And then I got to painting the Frostbite Spider. Again, I'm being lazy and using my hands as a palette. And there you have it. There's the Frostbite Spider. Now I'm just adding in a whole bunch of little pine trees that y'all saw me cutting up earlier. These little bush things, they were shedding a lot, but I figured I could use those tiny little pieces of flower that fell off to make the snowberries. It worked out pretty well. I added tiny little holly leaves in there too. They're a little big, I know, but you get the idea. And then I proceeded to add snow to all of the trees. It's just white acrylic paint. I just have to go through and do each of them individually. Here we go with the dead trees. I did my best to put a whole bunch of them in there for Grandma because they're her favorite. This one's a little like twisty. I thought that was cool. And now I decided that I would make a few Deathbell because there are Deathbell up there, sort of nearby Ustengrav. I think they're a little further south, but yeah. I just did my best to make them as tiny as I could out of some clay. I know I didn't really get the little petal details in there, but I did my best. Oh my gosh. Excuse my nasty, dry fingers. Oh my gosh, the super glue is just brutal. Getting some black paint on this Charis here. Added a bit of like very mild light blue color just to give him a little bit of texture. And now it begins, that crazy dwarven entrance. I used these little gem things as part of the pointy roof parts, and some of these as well. I know they're not 100% accurate, but they have nice texture and it just saved me some time. Yep, I'm adding some of that wire up on top here for more texture. Now I'm just painting over the whole thing with this like olive green type color and make everything match. Hello, hello! Just popping in. Say hello. Here it is in the sunlight. I added a little bit of like gold dusting on top of it because it's like dwarven, you know. And then I got a shot of it for you in the shadows. I put the Charis out front because, you know, I usually see them in the Dwemer caves. I got some skulls painted, and here's the gold dust I just mentioned. I coated the little coins with the gold dust, and then I used them as like little item gets next to the skulls. I had 3 of them total in this table. There's like 3 little skulls in a couple different places. So this was not in my original plan, but I remembered how much Grandma loves Inigo.
What is wrong with you?
yeah, I decided to make him from scratch. Oh my gosh. I just couldn't shake the idea, and I was like, you know, it would be so cool to have him fighting that Frostbite Spider, so here we go. I made all the different pieces. I got his torso here and his little head. I got to glue them all together separately after I bake them. And then I painted on his face. I added on some more of his armor, his hands, and then I added on some hair, which I originally was like, maybe I could use like black thread, but that would have been too painstaking. So I found one of those little pom-pom fuzzballs and I snipped it a little bit off and I used it as his mane. Also got his little belt buckle in there. And then I decided, because I love to use ebony maces myself when I play, that I would give Inigo an ebony mace for his weapon, which ended up just being some of that copper wire stuff with a seed bead in the middle. And so I just had to glue and cut each piece around the outside and then painted gray so that it would look like metal. And then I took a little bit of this like sheen shimmer stuff and I painted that on top to make it look a little more metallic. This might be a problem before I even did it, but I did it anyway. And I painted the little black handle. Yeah, it made it too thick to fit in his hand. So it busted off and scrape off the paint so that it would fit. And then I glued it back on and I painted it after I had put it in his hand. I can't believe he's so tiny. And I was so worried the whole time that he would be too big, but I tried really hard to make sure that it would work. So yeah, that's how big he is. He's about the size of a dime. Yep. I got some extra shots of him in the sun. You can see I added his little earring and I added his little scar. You really have to hold your breath when you do that.
Don't even breathe.
It was crazy. I was just like, can I even put his scar on there? There's some close-ups. I got a little knife in his other hand and I added his tail. That was the last thing I added. Then I added some of that metallic shimmer on his breastplate, and as you can see, his hand fell off again. Then I moved on to the Imperial base camp. So I have these little spokes here that they use for the cooking spit, which those things, man, oh my gosh, what a pain in the butt. I glued everything together, but it just kept falling over. Here's the spit with the meat on it. Oh my gosh. So here I am struggling to get that back up there because it kept falling off. The super glue kept making it stick to my tweezers. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare. For the tents, I used more of that, and then I used a artist ink pen to just draw in the little Imperial flag here. And I just popped it in the snow outside the tent. Here I am, trying and failing to add the meat on that spit there. Trying to get it in those spokes and it kept falling. Okay, finally. And here I'm painting some slaughterfish eggs. There's those Deathbells I was working on earlier. I added some of that wire for their little stem, which I painted green later. And then I decided to add a clamshell with a pearl in it, so I got these really tiny scallop shells as a gift from a friend who was in Florida earlier this summer. It was really kind of him, and they were very tiny, so... and then I have really tiny little pearls, which I actually used those for the slaughterfish eggs. I just painted them green. Finally got it in there, and then I had to glue on the top part, which I really struggled with. Everything's a struggle when it's so tiny. Popping in to say hi again. Here it is. And now it's on to the water. I used Mod Podge Dimensional Magic with a little bit of watercolor ink because I couldn't find my alcohol ink, which actually worked out really well. So I already put the blue acrylic paint down, but then I drizzled this stuff on top so that I could get that effect of like the water going up over the sand. As you can see here, I'm just pulling it up over the sand, making it look like the sand is fading down into the water with a toothpick. Making a total mess, getting it all over the boat. Of course, I added in some mushrooms, and you see there's a shell there. I scattered some shells around. Here is the log cabin. Another shot of my tea. There you go. This glitter paste I used to kind of fill in the cracks from where the snow seams were, because I couldn't just do one huge thing of snow. I had to keep carving it up. So yeah, that helped patch it up a little bit. And then I added some like snow dust on top. And then, kind of a last minute decision, I added in some teeny tiny fireflies that glow in the dark, and I had to glue on their wings individually too. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And then I added little tiny eyeballs. The little tiny eyeballs, hello, these cute little fireflies. Then I realized that the head of the Viking ship had busted off along the way at some point. And who even knows, it probably got thrown away with the excess sand, so I had to go back in and like reconstruct it myself with some clay. Are some final shots before the pour. I have it outside. Got some nightshade over here, the little purple things. Some of those mushrooms from Skyrim. I added some paint to the Deathbell to make it look more Deathbell-ish. I added a couple shades of bluish purple, like violet colors. Here we got the item gets, the coins, the gems, and the skulls. And there's Inigo and the Frostbite Spider. Got the ice wraith floating over the snow there. For this skull, I put a little tiny health potion that he had dropped. I put the wolves over here on this side. There's two of them. And some mud crabs over here. They ended up being two different colors. I know they were more grayish, but the first one I painted ended up being a little bit more red. I just wanted you to be able to see it. And of course I added a little nernroot, which glows in the dark just like the fireflies do. I think I accidentally spilled a drop of like fluorescent stuff in the middle of the snow somewhere, so my bad. See, I fixed the head on the Viking ship there. And I ended up using those barrels in the camp because they were too big for Ustengrav, so it worked out. Here's the huge Dwemer entrance. There you go. And that log cabin ruin. And here I am just using my little motor-powered like air thing. I picked it up from Micro Center. I was trying to get one of those aerosol can things that you use on your keyboards, but they talked me into getting this one, and I was like, why not? To get any excess dust and debris out of here so it won't be floating around in the resin when I pour it. So if you guys remember the first end table I made, I told you at the end of the video that the resin had seeped through one of the corners and like fused to the table that I had it sitting on. So I flipped this table over before I poured, and I used a little bit of UV resin to just seal the crack in the bottom just for an extra layer of protection. So hopefully that would not happen. And getting out my super clear liquid glass 24-hour cure. Mixy mix. And then I put it in my vacuum chamber to get the bubbles out. For the first layer, I just wanted a very thin layer, so I didn't mix up as much because I didn't want stuff just in case like floating around, and I want it to be able to make sure everything in the bottom was just got soaked up and sealed pretty well. So yeah. Scariest part of every project I do, the first pour here. There it goes. Put so much work into this. If anything goes wrong, it's just so nerve-wracking. So yeah, I just took my plastic stir spoon here and I was just trying to make sure that everything was coated so that everything would be nice and sealed in and none of the paint would like float up or whatever in the next pour. Just covering up this pita. Get a little butt. And then cover it and let it set. Hopefully no dust will get in there. Just disposing the excess from the first pour here. It's a couple days later. It looks like it worked out pretty well, the first pour. Yeah. Inigo is like knee deep in the resin right now. You can kind of tell. And on for the second pour. So I'm just mixing up the next layer here. I mixed up more this time. I originally was thinking that it would take maybe 3 pours, but in the end I ended up doing one last pour because North Highgate was just too high. A little bubble here that I am just scraping out to make sure that the resin will fill it. This pour was pretty cool. The sunlight was catching it and you can see that there's a little prism in there, a little rainbow. That was kind of cool. I tried to make everything lean a little bit. I don't know if you guys noticed, but straight from the top down, it would have been harder to see. So I just made everything lean back at an angle a little bit. But even then, there were just North Highgate and there was like 1 or 2 other things that were just poking out the top a little too high. So I had to do one final pour. Getting that bubble out. Good as new. Can't even see it now. Now it's time to assemble the table. Oh, what? Do not eat. I was gonna.
Oh, man.
Adding the legs in is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And here it is. It's all done. I can't really believe it. It was such a long work in progress, but I can hardly contain my excitement to give this to Grandma. I really hope she likes it. And thank you guys so much. If you made it all the way to the end, I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know it's not really to scale, but I did my best. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, guys. So, who do you guys think I should make art for next?